It's video goes outside. That extra credit thing was badass. Not even gonna lie. That movie we saw with Penelope Cruz called Mama. It's an amazing movie.
Was your essay very long, or did it seem really short?
It's well short.
Okay. I think we just answer the questions.
Yeah, once you're done answering the questions, that's it.
I disagree with you, but
no.
it shows negative on the.
Okay. I wrote, el compañero de clase Troy trabaja por Del Mar y Nueces County de voluntario.
All right, muy bien, buenos días.
Dentist thing. I talked about it.
Vamos a
The
ver.
historical marketing.
For wait, today we're gonna talk about a few things we have to do activities. Como siempre. Y me encanta. Today we're going to start talking about the rest of the chapter, and so we'll probably finish up the main chapter today a little bit on Thursday and start capítulo 4 on Thursday as well. Moving on, you'll take your next exam somewhere around November 19 or so, right before Thanksgiving break. So the week before Thanksgiving, that gives us a chance to do 2 more chapters. We take Thanksgiving, we come back, do another chapter, and we've done our good 5 chapters for the semester, which is what we're planning. In the meantime, you had a composition due, and I'll be beginning to look at those. Hoy pensamos, let's take a recap real quick of a few things. That we've seen this semester so far, and then kind of reflecting back on, we're right at midterm, right? Maybe, but week 6, 14 weeks, more or less midterm. Kind of reassessing what we've done in class so far. And the 3 major topics or themes that have run through Spanish 14, 11. We've seen adjetivos, we have seen verbos, and we have seen sustantivos. Oh, hold on. Está encima de la mesa en el próximo. Take your time. Aquí tienes los 3 adjetivos, verbos, and sustantivos, 3 parts of speech that we've kind of focused our Spanish 14 on. And speaking along the way. Sustantivos, I'm referring to nouns here. And even more specifically, the vocabulario that we see. Hola. Cosas como la familia, la madre, el padre, el hijo, la hija, el perro, el gato, en la universidad, el mapa, la computadora, all those people, places, and things that we classify as sustantivos. And then one thing that we remember about this is gender, right? Gender is something that happens here when we talk about sustantivos. We moved on and we talked about adjetivos next. Adjetivos, you can tell what that is. And the main thing here is agreement with nouns. That's to say that without those sustantivos, these adjetivos would be visible. And so what are we talking about here? We're talking about agreement with nouns. There's a direct relationship between these two things together. A noun, if it needs to be modified, will be modified by an adjective, and that adjective will be the servant of the sustantivo. It will do everything that the sustantivo does. Agreement, which has to do with gender, and number. And within the adjectives, we have distintivos. Vimos nacionalidad or origen. And today we're going to look at one other. Y es el adjetivo de posesión. That's where we're going to start today. But continuing on our chart here that we're making, the third thing that we've talked about in this class is los verbos. These are actions, acciones. And we've seen AR verbs. Hablar, cantar, bailar, etc. And if we had to draw a little data box for this one, we might remember this little data box for conjugation in the present tense. Right? And so what are we talking about here? It implies there's a lot of implications going on with the verb. Not only do we have conjugation here, but there's this kind of implied, you know the subjects, the first person, the second person, the third person, yo, tú, él, ella, usted. And so there's much more information in this little box than just the endings, right? But I mean, so far that's what we've seen. Today we possess. We focus on possession. How apt. Not that kind of possession. The other kind of possession, like ownership, right? So what are we talking about here is this phrase that you probably already heard in your life. You heard this phrase, mi casa is tu casa, right? You hear this all the time, mi casa is tu casa. In here, you're taking a look, you're utilizing two possessive adjectives to describe the house. A modification of a noun is done by the adjective, and if you think about it, is mi casa descriptive? Sure it is, because la casa is the house, and una casa is a house. But when I say mi casa, I'm defining that house as my house. I'm giving it a description, mi casa. I'm modifying it. And tu casa is your house. So they're two different houses apparently. Mi casa is tu casa, and it's the same one. Mi casa is tu casa. So what are we looking at here? We're going to draw a little info box. My and your. Mi casa, tu casa, and his house. Su casa. Su casa also means her house. It's mi casa, tu casa, and su casa. His house, her house. It's also your house, right? Think of this phrase. When I go to the door and I see my buddy at the door and I say, hey, come on in, mi casa's tu casa. We have a beer, right? He's my friend. But then the door knocks. And I go to the door and I see that it's the Kirby salesman. You guys know Kirby? No. There used to be this guy that used to walk around Corpus Christi selling vacuum cleaners. And I'm like, oh, I really do need a vacuum cleaner. I said, come on in, sir. Mi casa is su casa. Right? Because I treat him differently, he's not my friend. I would call my friend mi casa is tu casa, but for him I'll say mi casa is your house, sir. Mi casa is su casa. So that's su. Me, tu, and su, meaning his, her, or yours, sir. The adjective for our, possessive adjective for our is nuestro in Spanish. Vuestro is y'all's. And su is doubling here for their, one more time. Their house, su casa. This little info or data box that we have here is gonna work. I put a plus S right here because I want you to remember things like agreement. And so you're gonna see how this works in a second. We may need to add S's to these. And one more addendum to the list, or to the chart. I'm gonna do that, and you may recognize what's going on here. O arrow A. The O arrow A that we've seen before has to do with agreement. This is our pen. It's for the whole class to use. It's our. It's nuestro bolígrafo. And this chair, that's our chair for the whole class to use. That's nuestra silla. So that the agreement here is having to do with gender and number, as you'll see. Fíjense bien. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Take a look at this little activity here. Because the possessive adjective is very similar to the way it works in English, even placement of the adjective. You know how with 8 adjectives we were saying like la casa roja or la casa grande, and using the adjective behind the noun? Or we said el hombre francés, describing nationality, also placed after the noun. But when you use the possessive adjective, you use it like in English. You say my house, mi casa in Spanish as well, using the adjective before. So the placement of the possessive adjective is before the noun, whereas for nationality and descriptive, it's after the noun. So in this case, the adjective is working in the way that English does, placement before. Mi casa is tu casa. Now, ahora indique los sustantivos posibles para cada adjetivo posesivo según su forma. All right, so what we have is the word su here. You and I both know that su means his, or her, or yours, sir, yours. It could also mean their. So when I say su problema, that utterance, because it's not even a phrase yet, su problema, his problem, her problem, your problem, sir, su problema. It's their problem, su problema. Those are all correct utterances, all used with that little word, su. Su problema, correct. Su primos. Now, su primos is wanting to say something. It's wanting to say his cousins, or her cousins, or all of those that we just talked about. But this does not work well. There's a major error going on here when we say su primos, and that's the fact that the su is not a green. Su would have to have an S in order for this to be correct. Sus primos would be the correct one. Would su dinero work? Yes. And su tías? No. Su escritorios? Tampoco. Y su familia? Muy bien. Let's do número dos. Tus. That means your. Tus perro. No. Tus idea. No. Tus hijos. Sí, muy bien. Tus profesoras. Sí. Tus abuelo. No. Y tus examen. Tampoco. I think you're understanding then how it's working, right? You have to have an S if this has an S. Looking at those, you're also patting yourself on the back. I'm sure you know, wow, I know those words. Yeah, you know, profesoras, I knew exactly what they were. Let's do one more together. Mi ventana. Yeah, that's right. My window. Mi ventana. A bit possessive, don't you think? My window. Are you near my window, sir?
It's my window.
That's your window. Nuestra ventana. It's our window. Mi ventana. Mi médicos. No. What's a médico?
Doctors.
Doctor, very good. Mi cuarto. Alright. Earlier we learned that cuarto meant quarter, like quarter hour. Cuarto also means room. Alright, room, mi cuarto. Mi coche. Sí. Mi abuela. Sí or no? Sí.
Sí.
Mi gatos. Wow, no mucho. For number 4, 5, and 6, 4, 5, 6, read some of these to your partner will tell you see or no. And if you're not quite getting it yet, partners explain to them what's going on, right? Go ahead.
Sus animales, sí o no. Sus oficinas, sus nietas, sus padres, sus hermanas, sus abuelos.
Nuestros hijos,
Sí,
nuestras mujeres,
sí,
nuestros batis,
no,
nuestras sobrinas,
sí,
nuestras tías.
no. Nuestros gustos, sí. Nuestros consejeros, nuestros parientes,
¿Sí?
nuestros puertas, nuestros clases, nuestros residencias.
Easy peasy. Squeeze it.
Adrian is still kitty from the cat.
That's my next class. I'll study some more.
How many classes do you have this
6.
Pretty good.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
This weather's gonna have beautiful wildflowers this summer.
I know that I was in Denver on the weekend.
Oh, how
When I
fun.
flew in.
This was my girlfriend. Y'all there together?
Ah!
No, I stayed at the Brown Palace where it's it was a great experience. I'd never been to Denver, but as I was flying home, one of the things I noticed about Corpus is, you know, we were flying over the, I guess it's the west, and so it was brown. And when we got further south, we started getting cloudier, so we were flying above the clouds, couldn't see anything. Finally get to Corpus, I'm like, oh, we're here, can't see anything down there. They went under the clouds. Oh, it was so green. I felt like I was, you know, going to Ireland. It was that green. It was really
How'd you like Denver?
It was a good place. I couldn't breathe.
Yeah, it takes about a week or 2. I used to live there.
Really?
Spend a few months of time up there.
Wow.
It was hard to breathe, and my allergies were pretty bad up there. But
Oh yeah. Did you get nosebleeds?
no, I didn't get nosebleeds, but I did get kind of tight chest. I gotta go inside. Inside it wasn't bad. It was just when you stepped outside, and I thought it was pollution numbers. I thought maybe it's just the amount of cars.
Oh, the marijuana.
Just altitude.
But it was beautiful. The skies were blue. Saw a lot of buildings. I didn't travel out.
Did you go for a specific event?
We went to a languages conference
Oh.
in the middle of downtown, so we got to see a lot of downtown buildings.
Did you go to like that 16th Street Mall and stuff?
That 16th Street Mall. and
Saw the
then-
Capitol building, or all right there on Poets Road.
The Capitol, and then across the street's another building with the purple tower, I just don't remember what that is. And from hotel to hotel, and, restaurant to bar to this and that kind
Being like here in Madrid.
of. Yeah.
Ordering tapas.
Yeah. Yes, we did go to the tapas restaurant called Sip. You
Sip?
been to Sip? It's brand new, Sip, it's called the Sip.
No, it's been early 2000s, mid 2000s, so I stayed there longer than just flying in and going to other parts of Colorado.
It was relatively easy to get around too, they have this train system that's awesome.
Yeah, great trains, great buses,
Uh-huh.
really
Very nice public transportation. Muy bien. Classic we finished, and you said sus animales was right, and sus oficina was not. Sus nietas, perfecto. Mi padre, no. Sus hermana, no, and sus abuelo tampoco. You're realizing now that this agreement has to work for this to be correct. When we got to nuestras, now this one, it says nuestras guitarra. That's feminine, but that's not gonna work because nuestras has an S on it. So when we got to nuestras materias, we said yes. Nuestras libros does not work. Because that one would have had to be nuestros. Nuestros gustos, this is number 6. Nuestros gustos, yes. Nuestros parientes, yes. And that's it for that. Muy bien. How do you feel about the possessive adjective? Fácil, ¿no? You can do this. ¿Cómo es tu padre? Everybody, who can I talk to? Miranda, ¿cómo es tu padre? What's he like? My father is tall. Mi padre es inteligente. Good word. Mi padre es inteligente. ¿Cómo es tu hermano? ¿Tú tienes hermano? ¿Tú tienes hermano? ¿Cómo es tu hermano? Curioso. Es bajo y su hermano es bajo y curioso. ¿Cómo es tu madre? Sí, baja. ¿Tu madre es baja? Su madre es baja. Es baja. ¿Es morena o es rubia tu madre? Es morena. Aquí tenemos la familia de David. And we're going to describe his family, su familia, ¿no? La familia de David es su esposa es alta, su esposa es rubia y su esposa es bonita. Su padre, ¿cómo es su padre? Maite, ¿cómo es su padre? Su padre es viejito. ¿Algo más? Su padre es bajo. ¿Más? Su padre. His father, su padre es paciente. Okay? Su padre es paciente. Su hijo, tell me about his hijo. Su hijo.
Children? Oh, his children.
His children.
That's like, no, I don't children.
His kid, right here, su hijo.
Bajo?
Es bajo, su hijo es bajo. ¿Y su hija?
Su hija es joven.
Su hija es joven. That's a good adjective we haven't used in a while. Su hija es joven. Su gato. What about his cat? But it looks like her cat. Su gato es blanco, right? Su gato es blanco. Y el perro, his dog. Su perro es. He's supposed to be ugly, right? Su perro es feo. Su perro es feo. That made him kind of shaggy looking. Su perro es feo. Y su esposa, go back to the esposa, his wife, su esposa es un poco Gwyneth Paltrow, don't you think? Almost looks like an actress.
It wouldn't be bonita?
Yes, I call her bonita. I also call her su esposa, his wife, su esposa es baba. Su esposa es alta y rubia. Muy bien. La familia. Su familia es pequeña, it says. Su familia es pequeña. El adjetivo de posesión. Adjective of possession. We can return to that if you like. As a matter of fact, we may have some homework items we need to finish and work on together. let's continue talking about the next item today. And that's no longer talking about adjectives, but talking about verbs. And we saw AR verbs, like we said last time in chapter capítulo 2, AR verbs. Today we look at a second and a third set of verbs that are ER verbs and IR verbs. We're going to say then that once we look at ER and IR verbs, we have looked at all the verbs in Spanish, at least all the types of verbs that we have in Spanish. We have AR, ER, and IR. And within each of these groups are like 1 million, 2 million, 7 million verbs. Not really, but the point is there's a lot of AR, there's a lot of ER, there's a lot of IR, almost kind of spread evenly, I guess. It wasn't contrived, it wasn't like somebody invented the language and said we're going to do this many AR, this many ER, this many IR. But it just kind of happens that we have the three kinds. The ER verbs, we can start by looking at one, it's an action. This one, comer, means to eat, comer. And an IR verb that we can look at today is escribir. This is also an action that means it means to write. Yo como, yo escribo. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the fact that because they're verbs, they're going to go through the same kind of process that the AR verb does. You already know that it has to go through conjugation. And you're going to start seeing some sort of lógica, logic, a little bit, to the ending that we use for an ER verb. If these are the endings for an AR verb, you can see what we're doing here with the ER verb. Yo como, tú comes, él come, ella come, usted come, nosotros comemos, ellos comen, ellas comen, ustedes comen. The ER verb. The IR verb is going to do the same thing with a slight variation here. In the nosotros, yo escribo, tú escribes, ella escribe, nosotros escribimos, y ellos escriben, using the ER and the IR. El libro de texto will show us a whole bunch of new verbs, new vocabulary, if you will. Starting con este grupo aquí, comer, beber, leer, y escribir. IR verb, ER verb, ER. So the simple dropping of the ER and adding the new ending is how we do conjugation. So what we're doing is we're doing new conjugations for ER and IR verbs by simply dropping the, we call it the infinitive ending, ER, IR, and putting these new endings in. Hoy, today, for the next few minutes, we're going to start looking at these verbs. Repeat after me: aprender, beber, comprender, creer, deber, leer, vender. Vender is a good one because it kind of matches our comprar that we learned last chapter.
Vender, leer,
IR verbs, we have abrir, repeat.
abrir,
Asistir.
asistir,
Take a look at the meaning of this one. Asistir is to attend or to go to an event, like a class, a church, concert.
I thought it was like assistance, like to help.
It kind of sounds like that. Obviously, it looks like the cognate. This is what we would call a false cognate. Asistir in the sense of attending. Atender means to tend to help, or ayudar means to help. So that we call this asistir. Escribir is to write, and we repeat. Recibir, vivir. So for the next few minutes, 3, maybe 5, I want you to talk about these words with your partner. Say, oh, I like this verb, look at it. Or this one sounds weird. Or what does this one mean? Or, you know how I remember this one? I remember it because it looks like to receive. So what I want us to do is just have a small conversation, you and your partner, about what new verbs you're looking at today. Yeah, ver, if you can remember them. And so just simply talking about them is going to help you, making word association. Imagine you're taking a quiz in 5 minutes. You have to memorize what these mean before these words. Go.
That one was in the homework column. Yeah, because I had to look it up a couple of times. And I was like, go to class, it's like, is this speaking health in class? I could speak into health in class.
Because I kept getting it wrong. And I was like, come on, you like go check your work. And I kept getting it wrong. I was like,
What's that?
oh, yeah.
We're just kind of looking at the words and talking about
So you said like 5 minutes in person? No,
like pretend.
And he says, if you're gonna have, pretend you're gonna have a quiz, you're gonna study.
pretend.
I think it's when I was 5, but I probably learned them wrong.
No, he just said
I
pretend.
didn't see like there's something.
Like, look at them like you're feeling like quiz, like pretend like
Like
you're
for
like
some
preparing for a quiz.
What's the number one?
Vender to sell. I think of vending machine.
And things like we had to do.
Oh, beber, I kept putting tomo. I put tomo.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
And I was like, oh, beber. Yeah, I was putting tomo. Beber. Yeah.
But that one, like, nobody says that.
And then did you like,
That, yeah.
I was like, okay.
It said essay, and I was like, how am I supposed to make an essay out of this? So it was like this.
Yeah, I was trying to add.
beber,
No,
like, supposed to?
Yeah.
Sure, beber. Like,
Well, I say that one.
Trying to come up with some fake stuff.
I think we did that. Like I pretended like my roommate was in school, so.
I don't know if it's verbo que hacer or verbo.
I don't know, because where would you use the verb?
What do you use? I mean, I would use verbo.
Huh?
Tengo que. I
So
would
were
say
you
tengo
there at a bar?
I would say tengo que, not verbo que. No, it's not even verbo.
Tengo que, yeah, tengo que beber para vivir.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, that doesn't sound like a usual word, you know what I mean?
Because if not, nobody would have found him.
Tengo que.
But I mean, he's so skinny that
Beber.
the car rolled over and he just crawled out the
Beber.
window.
Que beber.
I was like,
Para vivir.
That won't work for me.
Yeah, well, I listen to his podcast all the time, so I already know what he does day in and day out. So it's, mi compañero de clase, Troy. Did you do it?
Yes, but it said your compañero or like another person or something, so I just made up.
Some
I
of
just
the,
made up my version.
some of the words.
Because it
were-
said
I
on
didn't
there,
understand.
it was like your compañero or could be, like something like that, right? It said something like that. I don't know what the word was, but I was like,
pretended
oh,
that my roommate
Yeah.
was a student still.
There you go.
yeah. I was like, I just started making up
I know.
to
What
make.
did you interview somebody?
Yeah. We
Oh,
started just
we
did
were
it
only
really
supposed to do one person, right?
Yeah.
And ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I don't even know what I made on the last test. I never got mine because
I'm gonna show it to my dad. I'm gonna show it to my dad.
How do you say to attend?
To attend,
Very good. How do you say to read? To read. And to write?
Escribir.
To live.
Vivi, can we ask you a question?
Huh?
On what type of sentence would you use beber? Right,
Deber?
what- No, beber. Which one were we talking about?
Debe.
Beber, yeah.
Like devil que is devil a real word.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, that's the next.
Oh.
Deber is, most of the time, it's an auxiliary verb, used with another verb.
Okay.
So you say something like, debo estudiar. Debo comer. Debo, I should, you should do something. And so there's always a verb associated with it.
The second verb would always be infinitive. It'd be.
That's like the
Plus
Okay.
That's right.
So how would you use it in like a sentence?
Mira,
Oh.
tengo hambre, debo comer. Debo.
So it's not beber. You're not
You're
actually.
conjugating the verb, right?
There are some instances where you use it like that. And,
Deber hacer esto para continuar la escuela. Deber, you should do this.
See, I can't think of a
no,
sentence where we use
I can
that.
see how we can change the meaning of it and use it, like when you say something like,
Like a joke like.
deber meaning to owe. Like when you owe somebody, yo debo dinero.
But it's still devil, it's not beber, right? Like, I
You
can't.
could, like you say, Oh, I'm going to $05. Voy a deber $5.
Okay, there you go.
This is like fun stuff like
That changes the meaning from to should to
I was like, what's the
owe.
reason?
To
That
owe.
that's not good.
No, it's real head stuff.
Last one, how do you say to understand in Spanish?
Because it's nuestras, nuestros libros.
Everybody
No, it's
comprender?
not.
Comprende?
Nuestros libros.
Comprender. How do you say to believe?
But we were just adding. Creer.
Creer. And how do you say to think?
Think, pensar.
Pensar, or creer, to think and to believe that. What about to read
Leer.
and to attend?
Asistir.
Very good. You know, as I'm learning these,
Asumir.
I'm pretending to be a student like you, and as I'm learning, I'm saying, I'm going to make word associations. Aprender is the first time I ever see that verb, aprender. It means to learn, like when I apprehend all that knowledge, right? And so you apprehend, aprender, making word association. Did somebody else come up with a word association for this one?
Aprendo la luz. Like turn on the light.
That's a different one, but it's kind of related to prender.
Yeah, because it's prende la luz.
Prende la luz.
This is to learn and this is to switch on,
Oh,
or
okay.
to turn on. Very similar, right? And that's what you do when you learn, right? You switch it on,
Yeah.
right? So it's good. Beber is to drink. Now, did you
Like a baby.
already know this one? Somebody
but-
said, I knew that.
I don't think
But we
nobody
never
uses
use it.
that.
We never
We use tomar.
Tomar, yeah.
Right? Tomar and beber are synonyms. You can use one or the other. Yo tomo or yo bebo mean exactly the same thing. But beber means to drink. I think of a baby.
Yeah.
Like a baby body.
I think of beer.
Beber.
No, I think of beer.
Or beer,
Yeah.
right? There's beer in there. I can see it. Anything else? Bubbles. Right? Bubbles. Beber. Beber. Comer means to also beverage.
Yeah.
Comer means to eat. This one, most of you know this one. Yo como, tú comes, él come, comemos, coméis, comen taquitos, right? Comer, how do you remember this one?
I have a funny story.
Come eat, right? Your grandmother.
My mom had a funny story for us when we were little, and that's why I like Spanish more. Cause my dad didn't marry her because she could cook. So, so she would say, "Oh, mom, that's what you made." She says, "Si no te gusta, comes caca." And basically, it sounds way better in Spanish than eat shit.
My grandma is from Monterrey, so she comes and visits, but my older son doesn't, he took Spanish 2 years, he doesn't know anything. So whenever he would go there, my abuelita, she's always cooking, so he's like, "Abuelita, ¿quieres comer?" And my abuela's like, "Yeah," and he's like, he goes and sits down at the table, and he's like, he wants to eat, but he's asking her, "Do you want to eat?" And she's like, "Siempre me dice, ¿quieres comer? ¿Quieres comer?" Y luego se sienta. And she's like, he was trying to say he wanted to eat, so he would go and sit down, and she finally got onto it though.
That's funny.
Comer, to eat. Comprender, to understand, and this one, well, it just looks like comprehend, right?
Mhm.
It's a good story, by the way. Creer in is to believe or to think. Like, any word associations or ideas about this one? How do you remember?
I don't know why, but I think of religion when I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like to believe in a creed or a credo,
Mhm,
exactly. Incredible or credibility, those are all based on the same word. Deber is to should, and this is the one we had to talk about. I'm gonna put it right here. And I'm gonna put a star by it. As long as I'm doing that, I'm gonna go into this two other verbs here that we already know. We know this one. Put a star by it. And we're also gonna put this one. And put a star by it. Now, to should, to need, and to want. Those are the three verbs that we're looking at this moment. We know how to conjugate this one. Yo debo, tú debes, él debe, él debe. But debe means to should, so it's almost always used with an infinitive. Like, think of the sentence, yo debo. Yo debo. It's a sentence, a subject and a verb. What does it mean? It means I should. Yo debo. I should what? No, finish the sentence. Yo debo estudiar. I should study. How about you should read this book? Tú debes leer el libro. So when we use deber, most of the time it's going to be used in conjunction, collaboration with another verb, and that other verb won't be conjugated. Just like we did with to need and to want. Think about these. What do you need? I need money. I need a pen. I need a new car. But I also need to sleep. I need to read that book. I need to eat. I'm hungry. So we can also follow this one with a verb. I want to understand you. I want to open the door. You can follow it with another verb. This verb right here in this spot is going to be in its infinitive form, in the baby form. So that's why I've started a new list of verbs. I got my AR verbs, I got my ER verbs, and I got my IR verbs listed. And I'm also putting stars by a few of them. And the ones that I put stars by mean that they can be used with another verb. I've only got 3 of those, so there you go. Los verbos. Abrir means to open. Actually, we get to leer. Leer means to read, and leer, like when you leer at a book. I don't know if you can see it here. Vender is like vendors or vending machine. Abrir, to open. This one might take some remembering. Abrir. How do you remember this one? Naz, do you have an idea on this one? You just remember it, huh? Like the beginning, the opening of the alphabet, A-B. A-B, like ABC. Abril is also the beginning of the opening of spring. Like April and April, right? The English word aperture comes from the same root. In photography, you have apertures of lenses, right? The openings. Asistir is to attend, and this one's going to take some getting used to for some of us who already speak Spanish who think it might mean something else. And for our English speakers who think it might mean something else, asistir, to attend. And you know how I remember this one? Because whenever I said, can I go? A mi madre, ¿puedo ir? ¿Puedo asistir? ¿Puedo asistir al
Can I go
concierto?
help?
Can I go to the movies? ¿Puedo asistir? Yes, if you take your sister. And so it's like, if you take your sister, and there's my sister right there, to attend, right? Do you guys have parents like that? You have to take your little brother.
They want to go.
Asistir. And escribir, like scribe or script or scribble.
Scribble.
Scribble. Recibir.
Receive.
That just kind of looks like receive, right? And vivir. Ideas on it.
Some expressions
Or
Like revive.
vivacious. Those are all kind of words that come with the thing. Muy bien, I'm cold. It does feel Christmassy today. And I see her blanket. This morning when I got to the office, I put on my little Pandora. I said, what should I listen to today? And I almost put Christmas music.
Yeah, no.
Instead I put Barry Manilow, but it is.
We're all there.
Los
Already.
verbos. Los verbos. As you look at this with your partner, you see the verbs uno a nueve. See if you can match abrir with one of the ones. Aprender. Do that or I'll look for the handout with your partner. Abrir, what other is it? Yeah, it's with letter E, we're not letter, right? What's the next one? Aprender. Subjects. It looks like material. It kind of is material.
Oh my gosh, that's me right now.
You hungry?
I'm so hungry.
85 en medio de la calle. Nunca te pongo contención.
Yes, and I have to go. I would not speak. It was freezing on the car.
Pero I'm never gonna take water over.
No, yes, it's like perfect because it's like really relaxing, but not when I'm
You just tell me.
I know. I wish I could tell myself.
Because in January it's freezing. My dad started school last semester. It was like they had to go to school because it was too cold.
And then my professor, my instructor for water service is like, if the cameras open, I will open, so y'all always cut.
I told my sister, because she told me the little boy is supposed to be
She's like, it's okay, just cut it
I said, well, I feel close to one shot.
It doesn't keep a whole pool, like there's areas
It's
that
just
are
the
even
little
and
boy's
there's
just
areas
too
that are
cute.
open. And I would like to get dressed here, because I have an hour, like almost 2 hours. I might as well go home, yeah, like on my break. And then I start this last week, I'm gonna go home and take a shower here. Like, yes, before I go home, but only because I don't wanna go outside and then in my wet clothes. And I don't wanna change and then, you know, if I have a shower here. The girls got in there and I, shh, it's freezing out. Shh. Like, I'm going home, I'm like,
Do you wear a cap? You don't put your cap? No.
All right.
but I'm so short too. So
Gracias,
I'm like,
clase.
yeah.
Gracias. Oye, clase, on Thursday, November 1st, that's your class. Thursday, November 1st, we're going to be having a little art exhibit. And I would welcome you to contribute to the art exhibit. We're also going to be having a Dia de los Muertos altar, and you can contribute to that as well. We're asking on that Thursday morning, we're going to probably us meet in the library at one of the rooms that we have designated for us. We're gonna set up an altar. I'll kind of explain what Dia de los Muertos is a little further into this week and next week. But we're gonna be needing some items for that altar, including flowers, candles, also pictures of people who have died in your family, or even if they're not from your family, but maybe pictures of famous people who have died, maybe people from Corpus, or somebody who has had some sort of significance in your life. And we're gonna be creating an altar at the library. We're also gonna be having a student art exhibit. So if you have any of your own art, or if you'd like to prepare something between now and November 1st, not a lot of time. Maybe paint a sugar skull, or paint a small canvas, or sculpt something with clay. I'll give you some examples. As the week goes by, we'll be able to exhibit that art. And we're going to invite Del Mar College to take a look at it and to look at our creation with the altar. And we're gonna have cookies and punch and lots of other fun stuff there. So if you'd like to contribute to that, start thinking about it. And on Thursday, I guess we can have another chat about it. And I'll bring you some examples of the art that you can prepare that's pretty simple. I even have some sugar skulls that are blank and some sugar frosting that maybe a couple of days before we can kind of decorate and have there for, not to eat. Right?
They're doing that at my work. I work at a Garcia Art Center,
Uh-huh.
and they're doing that. I've never done sugar skulls though.
Yeah, we have a few.
I saw them do it, like they're preparing them now, all the sugar skulls and stuff, because they're gonna have a big event. But it's, I don't know, it's kind of weird,
Mm-hmm.
because I had never seen them. I didn't know what it was.
It's a celebration that takes place generally in Mexico, other places too, but the one that we're familiar with is a Mexican tradition. And it happens every November 2nd, right? November 1st and 2nd. We're having ours on the 1st because that's Thursday, the 2nd is Friday, and everybody here is gone. So we're having it on that day. And it should be kind of respectful to the dead. And we will have like a conversation about what Dia de los Muertos is next time. But just be thinking about it. Maybe go on the internet and say, what is Dia de los Muertos?
Watch Coco. Watch
Watch
Coco.
Coco.
Or watch Coco, that's right. You guys know what it is. Corpus is we even have a Dia de los Muertos street festival. in
It's this
Corpus
weekend, right?
Christi.
Yeah, the 27th.
I've never gone, but I wanna go.
Corpus has kind of adopted the whole cultural and the artistic, not so much the religious aspect.
It's listed in a lot of magazines as one of the top places to come for that festival. Yeah. They put like Miami and other, I was like, wow, Corpus is
Wow.
out.
Kind of like our St. Patty's Day.
Yeah,
St.
that's
Patty's Day. Bueno, in front of you you have dibujos, actually fotografías, and there's two. Everybody should have two per page. Write out the verb that you associate with each. Just one verb for each. One verb. What action is going on in it?
You say learn for that one?
how do you say sassy? Yeah.
Porque si no
Because it
crees.
looks like this.
Vivir y comer, muy bien.
Is it asistir?
Yes, muy bien, asistir.
Is it concerto?
Concierto.
Concierto.
C-I-E-R-T-O. Leer y escribir, y tú tienes que ver y aprender. Leer, escribir, so that was very simple. You're looking at the new verbs, you're kind of memorizing compounded significant meanings. Now, go ahead and write a sentence with that. Give your character a name if you like. Juanito, Marcos, Matilda. And when you do that, pass it over to your neighbor and say, look what I wrote. Looks good, doesn't it? And your partner will correct it. For the most part, you're gonna be working with the E ending or the E ending. If it's two people, maybe the EN ending is what you're gonna be working with. All right. Muy bien. Show it to me. Sí, pregunta. Nike, vende una. Lengua nueva.
I like that, it's the top one.
It's asistir. Like Nacho Troy.
Or is it supposed to be water?
She drinks it like water.
That's how I
That
drink
doesn't
wine.
look like water.
That's how I drink wine. Cool.
Yes, and yes. For example,
He's writing his life story. Here he's reading his life story. Correct. Remember, I'm a poet. Now, guys. I think in fragments.
I'm gonna just want to start
Anytime I do something wrong, I'm like, remember, I'm a poet, not an artist.
Exactly.
I'm a lover, not a fighter. Hey, check out this guy. This guy. He's talking to his phone and walking.
Is this one right? Maria Abra.
You have the L-E, L-E-O, L-E-E-S, L-E.
Okay.
It looks weird when you conjugate leer and creer, like creo, you start seeing adjectives, vowel together, creo, les, two E's together, le, kind of looks weird, but trust in the formula.
Pilot trust in the tongue.
Incidentally, these are called regular verbs. These are regular AR, ER, and IR verbs in the present tense. We use this all the time, the present tense. When we talk about what's going on at the moment and what things happen in general, we're talking about the present tense. Some other day we'll talk about past tense or future tense, but now we're talking about the here and now, the regular present tense. And as long as we are here and now, ser, ir, not ir yet, ser and estar and haber are three other verbs that we have seen so far. We didn't categorize them as AR, ER, and IR, although you can kind of see that going on there. These three verbs, if you think about it, ser, estar, to be, to exist, these verbs are really not action verbs like to sing or to dance or to eat or to write. They're more kind of like verbs of existence. They don't move. When you say I am a student or you are a professor, you're just stating something. You're not stating that something is happening, right? So for these three verbs, we think about them differently than we think about these other verbs, because these are actions. And as such, these verbs are actually irregular verbs. So even though you're seeing ER here, you go, oh, it's gonna do this. It doesn't. It's a little bit different, right? So we kind of have to conjugate and memorize those conjugations for ser, estar, and say, oh yeah, we use these. We used them when we told the time, remember? ¿Qué hora es? Son las 8. Or we used this one when we said, ¿Cómo estás? Oh, muy bien, estoy bien, right? You've already started using these. We just didn't talk about the fact that they are actually verbs. And that one, I've never seen that one. That one only has one form. There's no conjugation here. It's just I. Remember this one? There is hay muchos estudiantes en la clase. Hay 3 mapas en la wall, en la pared. So those are our three, so far, our three irregular verbs. Every other verb that we see is a regular verb. Even the verb tener. Remember tener? To have. Yo tengo, tú tienes, él tiene. We're not including that in our list, but if we wanted to, we could put it here. It's an ER verb, tener. This week you're watching the first half of a movie, a full-length film called Volver. Volver is a film that has a very strong topic, a theme, and so kind of be prepared for something a little heavy this week. Volver is a film that was made by Pedro Almodóvar, the same man who made the very first film you saw, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. Pedro Almodóvar seems to have a knack for kind of capturing extremes in his films, pushing the envelope. He is trying to, in his films, he's always trying to kind of make people a bit uncomfortable with the topic. It's a topic that things people don't like to talk about a lot, but it's a topic that he feels warrants some exposure. And so what you're going to see is pretty heavy, and just be prepared. You're also going to see his movie making skills have improved a lot from 1988 to 2008. This is a 20-year span from one film to the other. Volver is a very interesting title. Volver means to return. It's about a return. But it's also about a return in real life. Pedro Almodóvar had a very good relationship with a woman named Carmen Maura. Now, Carmen Maura is the one who played Pepa in the first film. Pepa, the 40-something woman that was chasing Ivan all over the place, that one. He and she made a lot of movies together. Not only Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, but several films after that. As is customary with Spanish filmmaking and some European filmmakers, I'm not sure how it happens in the US, but a troupe of actors is what follow Almodóvar around. So Almodóvar says, hey guys, let's make a film. And then he says, hey guys, let's make another film. And he's talking to the same group of actors, so he just kind of reuses and recycles roles. So Carmen was his chica Almodovar. She was the girl, and he kept her for several films. And then they had a falling out, he and Carmen. And Pedro and Carmen decided they weren't ever going to speak to each other again, in the true fashion of Spanish drama, right? Adios. Many years go by. And I'm imagining how this came about, but because now she's in Bolivia. And I'm imagining that they were at some cocktail party somewhere in Madrid or Barcelona. And they were having their cocktails, and they may have seen each other from across the room. And then they're like, oh, why am I mad at her? You know? And so they come and they talk to each other and say, let's make a film together. Like, oh yes, darling, let's make a film together. And they probably hug and kiss, and they made a film together called Bolivia. And you're going to see Pepa in a much more serious role, not as frivolous, a much more serious role in Bolivia. So be looking out for her, right? And see how much she's aged in 20 years, huh? But anybody seen this movie? You ever seen it? No? Okay, you're in for a doozy, okay? And you're only watching half this semester, this week, and then you're watching the next half next week. So kind of spread it out to something that you can do this week, okay? Muy bien, and we'll have a chance to talk about that film watch it. And we'll have a chance to talk about that on Thursday. Is that it? This is my waving goodbye. If you don't have any questions, we'll see you Thursday. Right?
There's free food in the Harvard Center today.
Oh, on Tuesdays, right?
On your bird.
Oh, is that every day? I just saw an email. I finally checked my email today.